Okay, like
Yeah.
this is what the rest of my life's going to look like. I don't have to worry. And then all of a sudden, gone. And that's
Right.
where that void comes in, because now you're like, what is the rest of my life going to look like? Sometimes pain is not a bad thing. Actually, most of the time it's not.
I am most proud of who I am inside of conflict because of the choices I make when I'm hurting.
I always heard people say, like, you know, you need to become whole, you need to be a whole person. Never had a clue what that meant, because
Right.
again, I was a perfectionist, so I was like, oh, I'm already perfect, I don't understand, like, that's stupid. That's why I felt empty in my marriage, is because I could not let them fully in to love me.
There's so many things that I want to like grab onto that you're saying.
Shattered. Too unbreakable. Listen here, sweet sister. Whether you think you have one little crack or you are shattered into a billion pieces, this podcast is going to give you the resources, tools, and skills to help piece yourself back together to form a beautiful, unique, solid, and unbreakable masterpiece. You are listening to Shattered to Unbreakable, the Reclaim Podcast. Let's talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Reclaim Podcast, Shattered to Unbreakable. I am your host, Brandi Babin, and I have the privilege of having on today a guest that I met through the world of the gram. This is Geoff Pirnie, and he is here to talk about basically a big life event that happened and changed his entire outlook on how he sees himself, how he sees relationships, and how he sees healing. And I know every single one of you listening already relate to every single one of those. So welcome, Geoff. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. It's a pleasure. That was a great
And
introduction, by the way. That was fantastic. I could not do
hey,
that.
so tell us, Geoff, a little bit about like what happened. And now, even when I asked you what should I introduce you as for a title, you said I'm just a human, and I only recently became one. So I want to hear, because that's deep. Like, where does
Yeah.
that come from?
It definitely is rooted in my childhood. I'm not going to go all the way back to when I was born, but I think your childhood definitely shapes you. And for me, I kind of built a perfectionist identity because that's what I thought I needed to survive. I was always afraid that, you know, if somebody knew I was insecure or knew my deepest, darkest fears and insecurities, that like that would not be accepted. And there's no one to blame for that. All you can really do is just take accountability once you figure that out and, you know,
Right.
work on yourself. But there are many factors that contribute to that in your development. And so it was only revealed to me kind of that this was how I've been living when a very big life event happened, because I think big life events, you know, like trauma and grief and things like this, they bring about like sort of a malleability in your brain where you kind of have the opportunity to look and be like, okay, like, why am I this way? Why do I show up this way in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And usually the catalyst for that is like pain and, you know, difficult times. So for me, it was, I went through a separation. We've been separated for almost a year now. And basically my whole life changed during that process because, you know, I'd been living this perfectionist identity my whole life. And then for all of a sudden me to like not have a house anymore, not have a relationship that I had this identity tied to,
Mm-hmm.
everything just to be like, whoa, uprooted. Now I'm like in this void of like, who am I? Where, like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, why do I act the way I act? Like all of this stuff. And yeah, and so now it's just been really a period of my life where I've just questioned a lot of things. And finally, I feel like became a human being, like, you know,
Yeah.
because I always just lived like this perfectionist identity, like I said, always living through other people's eyes, always trying to,
Right.
you know, show up a certain way. And yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So obviously we'll probably want to pick that apart a little bit. So
Right.
I'll let you ask some questions before I just keep going.
That's fair. That's fair. And I think a lot of our listeners are the same. I mean, I've talked about perfectionism. I suffer from it too. Yeah, when your identity is tied to being the best, and then if you're not, you're like, oh my gosh, well, what's wrong? There's either something wrong with me or there's something wrong with them. And then, but asking the questions, I think, is the most important part. And there was a therapist that asked me, is it okay if you don't do your best? And I was like, no, it's not okay. And he was like, let me ask you again. I'm going to ask it a different way. Do you lose value if you don't do your best? And I was like, oh, well, no. And he's like, okay. So is your best on a day when you have the flu the same as your best on a day when you're perfectly healthy? And I was like, oh, okay. I see where you're going with this. But in my mind, if you're not giving 100% every second of every day, it's not okay. You know, and I had to like calm down. I have to
Mm-hmm.
calm down on that a little bit. But I think the thing that sucks the most about a big life shift like that, whether it's losing your job, losing your marriage, losing even just a relationship that maybe you weren't married, but it was you thought you were gonna be with them forever, is the morning of the death of the dream that went with that life.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why that's so painful is because the dream is also kind of a form of control and safety for your nervous system to be like, okay, like this is what the rest of my life's going to look like. I don't have to worry. And then all of a sudden, gone. And that's
Right.
where that void comes in because now you're like, what is the rest of my life going to look like? It's just this weird purgatory, and
Yes,
your nervous system just does not feel safe in it, and everything is amplified. Everything throughout your day, any little inconvenience, it's all just amplified. Pain is amplified. You're grieving not only the loss of that future, the loss of your partner, the loss of your identity. It's literally like the hardest thing mentally that you can really go through, being in that mental
absolutely.
space, I think.
Yes. And I love there's so many things that I wanna, like, grab onto that you're saying.
Hmm.
One of the things is the focus on your nervous system. I think a lot of people don't realize your nervous system is sometimes out of your logic control. So your body's reacting and you're trying to tie meaning to the reaction, which it doesn't always have this certain meaning. I always go scientific, but your amygdala reacts before your frontal lobe processes what's happening. And so you may have a reaction and then you're like, an hour later be like, why did I do that? Well, because your nervous system thought you were threatened. It was reacting because it was trying to keep you safe. This could be like to the gym it freaking burns when you do quads, right? And
Hmm.
that sucks, and you don't wanna keep doing them.
Right.
But so your body's telling you through pain, like, "Stop doing this exercise, it's hurting you." But then logically, your brain knows, well, breaking down of muscle makes it stronger, the
Hmm.
pain is okay. And so
Hmm.
your brain can tell your body, "It's okay, we're gonna live." So sometimes it's that your body's trying to make you do something not do something that's healthy, and then sometimes your body is saving you from doing something harmful, but understanding your nervous system, like, what tell me about that journey. Like, do you
Yeah.
do coping mechanisms for your nervous system?
My gosh, this is like everything right here. This encapsulates everything about man, I'm already getting like too many thoughts because I'm so excited to talk about
Yeah.
this. What you said about like, yes, okay, recognize it. Sometimes pain is not a bad thing.
Mhm.
Actually, most of the time it's not. It is
Right.
just if you can look at everything sort of through the lens of your nervous system and regulating your nervous system and understanding why some of your action or your feelings might be motivated by just your primal brain and your instincts instead of like shaming yourself and blaming yourself for feeling that way, and then instead taking time to pause, reflect, ask why you're feeling that, identify it, understand yourself, and then take the actions that you like want to the version of yourself that you want to be would take. I mean, that's what it's all about. Is just understanding your
Absolutely.
nervous system. I literally look at everything through that lens because that is what's happening, right?
I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy, and he talks about not being scared of bad things happening. I hate when people say, "Why do bad things happen to good people?" Well, because bad things also happen to bad people,
Yeah.
and good things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. Basically, good and bad things don't happen to me. Things just happen, and then I get to choose how to react. And so Alex says, "I am most proud of who I am inside of conflict because of the choices I make when I'm hurting." And it's not that you should be scared of being hurt or scared of bad things happening. You should be excited when something painful or bad happens because you get to exercise who you really are, like
Yeah.
your character.
Yeah, that is my biggest message, I would say, is turning challenges and setbacks in your life into opportunities
Mhm.
is everything because that's ultimately your choices. You have two options when anything ever happens to you. There's two options. You can like react to it in a poor way, or you can see it as an opportunity to grow. Like there's no other way about it. Things are going to happen to
Right,
you regardless. Doesn't matter who you are, whatever. You're not always going to be able to control your circumstances. What you can always control is how you show up in them.
right.
Period. So
Period.
what is the why are we like, like let's just do the thing that we know is the only other option, which is to start taking the actions of the version of yourself you want to be and just do that. Like it's really hard. It's super, super easy to say and super hard to do. And I know that because even right now, like even understanding this, I still struggle. Like there's
Mhm.
so many things in my life that I'm like, I don't want to act that way, in this scenario, but I still do. Whoops. All you can do is take accountability and keep trying again because those again, there's still just those two options. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that is really my whole thing. And that also ties into my fitness side of things too. I could go on about that too.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, there's just that's what it's
I
all
think
about.
fitness is such an amazing metaphor to recovering from trauma. Not to
Hmm.
mention the revenge body, super motivating.
Sure, yeah.
So, I love being in the gym, one, because it shows discipline in my life, and if I can be disciplined in that, I can basically be disciplined in anything. Because man, working out is hard, and you sweat, and it hurts, and you hurt for days afterwards. There's nothing like that delayed what am I trying to say? It's like the
Yeah,
delayed outcome.
yeah.
So, when you start working out, you're not gonna see a difference in 2 days, and you're not gonna see that much of a difference in a month, but in a year,
Hmm.
night and day, but you
Yeah.
have to do it consistently for the year. I think people need to just latch on to something, but Jeff was saying that when you get out of a relationship like this, where it was a lot of your identity, then when you're looking for something to fill the void, you most often reach out for another relationship. You're not ready. If you weren't able to be healthy in your last one, you're not able to be healthy in your next one until you do the work. Do the work, and that's great, but find something else to fill that void until you can figure out where it's coming from and how to be freed from it. Is that fair to say?
100%. You need to be whole first. And I always heard people say like, you need to become whole, you need to be a whole person. Never had a clue what that meant because
Right.
again, I was a perfectionist, so I was like, oh, I'm already perfect. I don't understand. Like that's stupid. But yeah, I totally get it now. It's like when you're not whole, you're always looking for things to fill the parts of you that you can't give yourself. And for me, that's like validation, love, like blah blah blah, like all these things, acceptance for like my insecurities, all these things. And I've had to learn via like deep self-reflection and internal work and sitting in the pain and understanding myself how to give myself those things and how to give myself love and how to fill my own cup so that when I get into my next relationship, I am a source. I don't want to just take and take and take. That's not what I want to do. I want to be the source. I want to be the leader. I want to be, you know, the foundation. And that's what you have to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then when both people take accountability, like you were saying before, I like when people talk about being happy before you're in a relationship. That way you're not counting on somebody else to fulfill who you are, your happiness. You're already happy. So it's basically you're complementing each other and supporting each other, but you're not looking to each other to fill or validate your identity.
Yes, 100%. And I think I've always I've always needed that. That's my big thing is I always needed validation. But the problem is when you are a perfectionist, it's a futile exercise because
Hmm.
being a perfectionist means that you feel like you need to be perfect. Obviously, it's kind of in the name. And the way you show up in life is you will not. How am I trying to say this? No, okay. Here's what I'm gonna say. Nobody is perfect, right? Like you can be a perfectionist, but you're not going to be perfect. So when you don't let people see the parts of you that aren't perfect because you're always portraying this image, you're building a wall around you. You're protecting your insecurities. You're protecting the things that you think can't be validated by other people. You think when they see it, they're not going to love you anymore. So you can never actually be loved. You can never actually get that validation because you're not letting anyone in to see it. And so like that's why I felt empty in my marriage is because I could not let them fully in to love me.
Hmm.
It's like if you're physically wearing a mask and someone tries to give you a compliment and say you have pretty eyes, well, thank you, but I can't feel that compliment at all because I know you can't actually see my
Yeah.
entire face. So it's the same thing with love and perfectionism. You have literal walls around the parts of you that need love the most, and you can't give it to yourself because you can't accept it, and nobody
Right.
else can give it to you either because you're hiding it. So being able to understand that and tear those walls down and replace those bricks that had built the walls around you with actual bricks that are like more like built on integrity and build a foundation for yourself instead of
Yeah.
around yourself is like, that's what you have to do. It's really, again, easier said than done because
Very.
it's extremely
Yeah.
painful and takes a lot of work and reflection and meditation, etc. But that's what has to
It's like
happen.
taking the bricks that were building the walls and making a pedestal, like you said, and then having to stand on the pedestal in full light where everyone can see every
Yes.
part of you.
Yes.
That's
And
the
like,
scary part.
and how do you do that is the question. Like, because people are probably like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Like, that's very like
I don't even
cerebral.
know bricks. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Well, so it's basically like the bricks that you're building around you, the bricks that you're it's all based on your actions and how you choose to act and what things you let people in at on and to see in
Mhm.
yourself. Like those are bricks, I call them. So like if you let me just think of an example really quick. So in a relationship, for example, your partner has a concern about the way you showed up, and instead of accepting it and taking accountability because you're perfect,
Mhm.
well, actually, here's all the excuses for that. I'm laying this brick down in front of me. It's
Mhm.
I showed up that way actually because I'm insecure, right? Here's a brick to cover that up. Here's the excuse.
Right.
The way you build the foundation is to have integrity and actually question and understand yourself. Like, why did I actually show up that way?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
can I change? How can I do this next time? And then actually let that be witnessed and let that like take accountability for it so that your partner can see it. And that way you're laying a brick of like strength underneath you, and you know, you're building yourself up and you're letting yourself be seen.
Mhm. You know, the perfectionists of the world that are listening, you totally get what we're saying. Those of you that aren't perfectionists, you're like, "Why can't you just admit it?" I don't know. Like, so
Yes.
much of being a perfectionist is I don't even know I'm doing it until I'm called out. It's not I'm not actually thinking, "Oh, I'm insecure, so I'm gonna put this brick here." No, I'm literally thinking, "If I don't feel validated in this moment, who am I?" Like, it's an entire loss of identity if you don't cover up your tracks kind
Yes,
of
it's
thing.
survival and it's rooted in
Yeah.
shame. I think a lot of it's rooted in shame. Something happens in your past that makes you feel a certain way, and it makes
Mhm.
you feel like that can never happen again. So you shame that part of you into literal non-existence, and you can't bring it out. Like it's impossible. You would never know that you're a perfectionist. You don't know it really until you finally do, and then you take accountability. You still, like, I'm still a perfectionist, but I just understand it, and I bring myself back. But I think it is rooted in shame. You know, my old Jeff would have like shamed himself and shamed any part of himself that he didn't like, to the
Mm,
point where he didn't even know it existed anymore. So that you're lying to yourself so deeply that you are convinced that you literally like don't have insecurity or don't have like whatever issue it is that you've been shaming. It's gone. You push it so far down because in order to live and survive, that's what your nervous system feels like it needs to do to be safe. And so yeah, I was so deep in that like literally I
mhm.
thought I thought I was doing all the right things and I was not. And man, what a shock that was when I figured that
I
out. My goodness.
know.
Yeah.
Realizing that your identity was false is probably one of the most painful self-discovery moments of life. It's thinking like, "Who I thought I was doesn't even exist." Like, that's very scary. So who
Yeah.
am I really? And then it's this that's the most beautiful journey though of realizing, "I don't know who I am, but I'm gonna find out."
Hmm.
Like, and that's the perfectionist journey then. We have dopamine from finding out who our new identity is and getting to design that, and that's a much better use of perfectionism and drive
This is
than
true. This is true.
being who you thought you were.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I think when I finally found out who I was when I found my inner child, actually, which was a
Yeah.
what a wild experience. So,
Isn't that fun?
gosh, to preface this for all the dudes out there that are watching this that were like me before I learned all this, anyone that like any dude that's watching this that was anything like me is probably like inner child. This dude's like a weird, like
Yep.
spiritual. Get out of here. Like that's stupid. Well, listen, I didn't know what inner child. I didn't know anything about that. I found
Mhm.
my inner child before I even knew what it was. Okay, and it was an insane experience. It was literally the most like bizarre thing that ever literally happened to me. And I'm a very logistical guy, so like
Mhm.
I do think it's like easily explainable with like logic and whatnot. But anyway, do you want me to tell you this story?
Yeah.
Okay, so after I had split with my spouse and like kind of crashed. Actually, let me go a little bit before that. It was like only a few weeks after I'd split with my spouse. I was going nuts. I was on this adrenaline fueled, just cortisol fueled nightmare of like
Mm.
trying to fill the void. I was doing all these things. I was like, I entered a bodybuilding show. I was starving myself. I was like drinking so much caffeine, you wouldn't even believe it. I was like trying to I bought a BMW. I was like, I'm going to be like this sick, shredded dude with a BMW, and I'm going to like win a bodybuilding show and like, oh, like all this stuff. And after about 3 weeks of that, like I couldn't sustain it. So I crashed. And in that
Yeah.
crash, I no longer had the ability to reach for all these things that were filling it. So like,
Mhm.
it just hit me like a rock. Like it was insane. So in that like, void, I decided to like start kind of understanding why I was doing this. I was like, this is not me. Like,
Right.
who is this guy that's doing all this stuff? Like, why did I just buy this stupid car? Like, why did I show up all the ways I showed up on my marriage? This can't be who I am. Like, this is crazy. So I started to question those things. Obviously, it was deeply painful to like actually do
Mhm.
that. So I started to meditate for the first time in my life, which for me was just going out for a morning walk. I would go out for
Yeah.
a morning walk with no phone. I would just feel what I'm feeling. And most often it would suck. It would be the most painful thing ever. But that pain would, at the very end of my walk, usually, or somewhere in between, I would kind of like understand, like, that's that's because I'm really insecure about this. That's why I bought this car. That's why I started like I'm actually just really insecure. I'm not comfortable with the way my body looks. That's why I started starving myself to do this bodybuilding show. I wanted other people to see it. I was seeking validation. And I started to like learn all these things. And it was kind of like I'm like Jason Bourne. I'm like piecing together like what who am I, right? And
Yeah.
so anyway, this is a long story, but I'm getting to it here.
I love it. It's okay.
Okay, so on one of my morning walks, I just like really, how do I explain this? First of all, your inner child, I think, is a culmination of all the parts of you that you push down and push away
Mhm.
because you don't think they can be validated. So because I was starting to find all those things and piece them together and bring them back a little bit into the light, I think I kind of heard the cry of my inner child loud enough to be like, there's something in there. Like
Mhm.
there's some part of me that I left behind a long time ago, and I actually found it on this walk. I literally, and this is the weirdest thing ever. When I found it and like allowed it to just be present and like allowed myself to understand, like, I am insecure. I am this. I am that. I am all these things that I've been denying my whole life. I literally felt like I was 14 years old in middle
Aw.
school, and I like had all these memories rush back to me, and I like my and this is the really weird part, like my mannerisms changed a little bit. I remember I was walking and some dude came up to me and started talking to me, and like I was like talking as if I was my 14-year-old self. I know it's so weird, like my vocabulary was different, but I think it's because like there are like physical memories and physical parts of your brain obviously that literally exist physically, right? It's just a
Yeah.
combination of neurons. So when I unlocked some of those like things that I now allow myself to like be present in, a little bit of my like kind of who I was back then also popped into my like, being. This
Yes.
sounds so weird because I'm not that guy. I'm not the kind of guy that talks about this kind of stuff. But anyway, that's what happened. Okay, I'm just saying. And again,
That's
I
what
didn't.
happens. Facts.
Again, I didn't know what an inner child was. So like, I'm not making this up. This just happened
Yeah.
to me. Anyway, after this experience, I looked up like what just happened. Like I googled like all my symptoms, everything that just happened, and it was like inner child, and I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, and then it was just yeah, that was the experience. It was amazing, and ever since then, I've been integrating that inner child into my presence as a person in the world now, which is just doing this. For example, this is letting my inner child out. You would have never been able to torture this information out of me or admit that I was insecure a year
Right.
ago, right? Like that's part of my
Yeah.
inner child. Like I'll tell you my deepest, darkest secrets now because I know that that's okay to be witnessed, and I'm validating that in myself. So now other people can
Yes.
see it. Doesn't matter if they don't like it. I've already given myself like the love and validation. And anyway, I could keep talking. Like I know you probably want me to like chill, but I could keep talking about this. Like I could not stop if you wanted me
That's
to.
no, you're good.
Okay.
No, if you knew me better, you'd understand that I'm, like, eating it up. It's so
Okay.
good. I love that you called it meditation, but it was a walk because I think so many people think that in order to meditate, you have to sit funny and put your hands together. Like, meditation, it can literally just be somatic, and by
Yeah.
somatic, I mean in your body. Like, you're
Yeah.
just this is the words I like to use are, "What do you notice?"
Yeah.
And that's it. What do you notice? What do you
Hmm.
notice in your thoughts? What do you notice about how the sun feels on your face? What do you notice inside? Is there tension somewhere? What do you think that tension might mean? And sometimes I go so far as to be the nut job that says, okay, tension, it's your turn to speak. What message do you have for me today? I think that getting inside your body and putting away your phone and putting away even friends, because to be honest, the perfectionist part of me attracted certain friends that don't have any business being my friends. And when you realize your identity is shifting to a more healthy persona, those friends will exit by
Yeah.
themselves. They
Yeah.
won't like the changes, just let them go. But it so matters what comes in, and I always tell people what entertains you trains you. It
Hmm.
whatever comes in is what's gonna come out. So if you whatever you let in needs to be quality if you wanna be quality.
Yes.
And I think one of the biggest differences I noticed because I am probably more so addicted to loving people. I love love. I love to give love. I love to receive love. It's gotten me in trouble in relationships because
Hmm.
once one ends, as soon as attention is shown, I'm like, "Oh, someone to love," you know? I made a list of my dream guy, but only to make a list of the woman he would be looking for.
Okay.
And then I made sure I became that woman because I'm like, "Well, if I'm holding this guy to this high standard, I better be up there too."
There's a lot of things to unpack there. You got to be careful with what you said actually kind of describes what my issue was, but I know that you're going about it probably in a healthier way. But like you said, like, okay, you pictured like your perfect man, and then you pictured, okay, what do I need to be valid or loved by that type of man? I
Right.
did that for like my whole life basically, and like everyone around me. I'd be like, what do I need to be for other people to like me? And
Uh,
that can be a really unhealthy thing, and that can be like what creates a perfectionist if you're you don't actually understand how to literally become that. Like if you're just acting like that person, which is
yeah,
what I did, I
yeah,
just played a character my whole life. I denied my feelings instead of actually working through them. So like if I wanted to
yeah.
become less insecure, like if I
Mhm.
wanted to be like, okay, my woman wants a confident, secure man, right? The old me would have been like, I'm going to act confident and I'm going to pretend I'm not
Okay.
insecure. Now
Yeah.
I understand, like, okay, what are my insecurities? I look at them and I understand them and I identify them. And then I understand the roots of those insecurities. And then I work through them via therapy. So it's like,
Right.
now I'm actually becoming a different person. Now I'm laying integral bricks that build me to become this person rather than covering those insecurities and those things that I don't like in myself up with, you know, these like perfectionist bricks that are like hiding all those
Right.
things. So, yeah.
That's
So
a
I
good
think
point. It'd be a good
right.
idea to take the list to your therapist and say, "Hey, how do I healthfully go about these things?" And maybe even unpack why you wrote each thing. Like, where did this come from?
Hmm.
Is this something that I wanna become because I think other people want me to, or is it
Hmm.
something I wanna become because I think that that's a high character, high quality person?
Yes. I have
So,
a
that's a
huge
really good point.
yes. Okay. So that's also a thing that I want to talk about. I think the best way to become the version of yourself you want to be and who you're meant to be is to just question all of your actions for a while. And
Yeah.
when you do, and like the way to question it is just to say, if nobody ever saw this, if nobody ever validated it, if no one ever agreed with it,
Mm.
would I still take that action? Would I still do that thing? If
Ooh,
the
I
answer
like
is
that.
yes, then there's a pretty good chance that you're showing up integrally and you're bringing your actual self to the table. And so, like, I made a twerking video the other day. Okay. I was at the gym and I was feeling a little spunky. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just see if I can twerk. And I recorded it. And like, it was just a funny, stupid thing. And before I posted it, I was like, am I posting this to like get some sort of validation? Like people will think like I'm funny or something? Or am I just doing it because like I'm actually exploring my own personality and I just want to like put this out there because like it feels like a little bit liberating or whatever. And like it's
Yeah.
just part of my
Goofy
personality.
and fun.
And I made sure when I posted it that it was like, you know what, that is just Geoff being funny and something
It's
that I
funny.
want to do. Yeah, and like my mom hated it and like some people like really hated it and but I kept it up because I knew prior to making that decision that I had already given myself the like validation that it was an integral thing to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
for validation. And that's another thing I'm really careful about as a fitness coach is like I barely post my physique. I have two physique pictures on my entire Instagram. I have like 150 posts. Most fitness coaches, every single post is their muscles.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm so careful to not post my physique for validation, because
Mm-hmm.
that is exactly what my perfectionist self wants to do all the time. I always want to be like, I want to post myself so that people see me and they're like, oh, Geoff looks good. Like, I have to be very careful. Every time I post, I'm always asking myself, like, is this something that I'm doing for me, or is it for other people? So that's my
That's
story.
so good. I
That's a
love
lot.
that. That's so good.
Yeah.
I got lost in the world of Instagram because I was trying to build a following and I was trying to, get all the trends right and do everything I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized, like, I'm getting lost in this. This isn't even me anymore. No amount of followers is worth, you know, compromising my character over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finally was like, okay, enough. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to get on there with no makeup. I'm going to be goofy. I'm going to show like things I do. I'm going to show my house being a mess. There is still like this anxiety when I post a video and I have no makeup on of like, oh my gosh, people are going to be like, that's what she really looks like. Like it's just
Yeah.
sometimes it's being a perfectionist is hard, but it, like you said, it is liberating because you are finding out who you really are. And then my favorite part of my recovery from perfectionism is not giving a crap what people think anymore. I love it. It feels so good. And there's like a little piece of me, there's a part, I do parts work too. There's a part of me that really does care still. And she's like,
Yes.
but I really want to be seen and known and loved and desired. And I really don't want to make anybody mad. And then there's this teenage part of me that's like, you know,
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. You say it's nice to get to the point where you don't care what anyone thinks of you. I have not gotten to that point. I don't think I ever will. I think because that never worked for me. Like, I always heard advice like, uh, just, you're gonna die anyway. Nobody's gonna know you in 100 years, like whatever. That doesn't work for me. What worked for me was what I kind of figured out on my own, which is I can feel this way, but I don't have to like show up based on how I feel. Like, I can be insecure and I can still do the thing that is scary to me. Like, that is what really, I can act in spite of my feelings, basically, to sum it up. I can act in spite of my feelings, and that kind of brings it back to the nervous system thing, like you said about, not wearing makeup and then putting yourself on the internet. Your
mhm,
nervous system is like, oh my gosh, if you do that, like, people are gonna like freak out, and everyone's gonna like unfollow you.
yeah,
But the truth is, like, yeah, maybe some people will, but the people that do, those aren't the people you want following you anyway, because that's
no.
not it's not authentic. Like, if they're looking for just someone to look at, that's not what you're all about, right? So, like, get good riddance, okay?
Thanks for hanging out with us today. I just wanted to remind you about the resources we have on the reclaimstrategy.com. That is Reclaim University with free downloads. It's the Reclaim Guidebook, access to Kintsugi classes and events. So go ahead and take a look. Also, please share this podcast with anybody that you think might need to hear these messages. And if you haven't already and you think we deserve it, give us a 5-star rating. That just helps our reach. So I love you guys. Stay sparkly, and we will see you next week.